Hey tubers, welcome back for another adventure and Happy New Year 2023. Can you believe it? This is my year-end special. So in 2023, I brought home a total of 24 2, 3, and 4 wheelers. In 2021, I brought home 27, so I actually brought home 10% less. What you're looking at here was one of the first ones to come home. This was a January mega deal. I got this 125, this 200M frame, and this incredibly ugly TRX 200 that actually runs pretty well. I paid $300 for these three and a whole load of engine parts. The engine parts have come in handy. A lot of small little pieces, nuts, bolts, clamps, all that kind of stuff I've been using all year. And obviously for $300 to get one runner, one almost runner in the 125, and two loose engines, all that stuff, $300 couldn't be a better deal. It all came out of Deer Park, New York. It was fun to go out there and get it. It took until July for the next mega deal to hit. This Wilderness Trail 90 was in that mega deal. If you recall, the engine actually ran good on it. Unfortunately, it was a single speed and the transmission was blown. The slip and slide centrifugal clutch was bad on it, but cosmetically it's a real beauty. I swapped the motor out and I think it's going to get another motor swap. Might say Honda on the motor next. This little Sunel 70cc was part of the July mega deal, and so were this pair of Tao Bull with GY6 150cc engines. My buddy Steve got the deal for me, hooked up with him up at the Roscoe Diner. I love trips to the Roscoe Diner where I bring cool stuff home. So he got me that deal. Love the mega deals. Always, always, always love the mega deals. Following the mega deals was the most unique deal. I picked up this pair of hillbilly lawn trucks. I went $550 for them. They were delivered right to the house. Just going through this whole list, I'm beginning to remember all the things I need to get back to working on. Going through a few of the individuals, got that from my buddy Harvey. It's an 84 200S. It's a roller. This one came from Kurt. This was the one with the seized rear end. Engine runs good and so forth. I believe that's a one. Yeah, it is a 185 with no front suspension. In the land of the worst deal, this Bayou, I think, really has to be under the worst deal. Very disappointed in this one. This one I drove out to Dover, Wingdale, that area, up in the sticks to go get it. Supposedly it had an electrical problem. Brought it home, discovered that it had jump time. So I corrected that. I fixed the timing. We were able to hop the chain and move it around. It didn't smack up the valve, so that goes under the land of lucky. Once I did get it started, I discovered that the engine was just beat to death. It's just plain worn out. And one of the front wheels was basically falling off. The bearings are so ground out. It was hard to run a little loop right here with it. It just wasn't in very good shape. I put quite a bit of time into this machine, and it was a real disappointment, because I guess it wasn't what I thought. And for 460 bucks and all that driving, it was kind of like, really? I had to bring this home. I shouldn't be complaining as much as I am, because it did come through with some halfway decent plastics, and there's a load of parts on it. I mean, for 460, what do you expect? But I guess my disappointment is it wasn't what I was thought. The next most disappointing machine. This is the next most disappointing machine. It is a Suzuki LT 125, Quadrunner 125. I think I paid $3 or $3.50 for it. And after I got it home, it has no electric start, and I discovered that the recoil was gutted. And then I discovered that the recoils were kind of hard to find. And I was really kind of disappointed more in myself than, the buddy I got it from Kurt. Because I should have checked the recoil. When they don't have electric start, you should always check to make sure that there's something inside the recoil box. It was on there relatively loose. It would have been no big deal to check. So I'm blaming it on the machine, and I really shouldn't. I'm really kind of disappointed in myself for not checking to see that the recoil was gutted. I did manage to get it started, and I took it out for a ride, and I realized that I don't particularly care for the Suzuki 125 or the TRX 125 because they don't have any suspension. So even after getting it running, it was kind of like, oh man, what did I do? And then without a recoil, you just can't sell them. You just kind of got a piece of lawn art. So those are my two biggest disappointments. My buddy Kurt should not feel as if he is being picked on, because he probably gave me one of my favorite deals of the year also. The Suzuki 230 shaft, this hardtail Quadrunner. What I did was I put the small tires on it, got this thing running, did a carburetor hack on it, and this thing is just a joy to go screaming around the front paddock on. I mean, it is like a flat track racer. So, when you're kind of dealing in the sub $500 range for all-terrain vehicles, you get all kinds of winners and losers. I think I paid, this one I think was $350, and the 125 was $300. So even as you grind through parts and so forth, I really didn't do bad on the 125. It's just once I got it, quasi running and rode it and realized I had to gut it recoil, I was just thinking to myself, boy, this is one you might have left behind and been further ahead. With this guy here, I'm so glad I didn't leave it behind. It is such a joy to own and ride. It's a real nice machine. So once again, you want to dance in the sub $500 range, even the sub $400 range for all-terrain vehicles. Remember, folks, there's no guarantee. In the land of expensive and hasn't earned its keep yet, we have the John Deere 575 skid steer. Till you own one of these things, you really don't know what it's like. Very interesting to get in. If I am inside, I cannot have the door on it because for me it feels very small and claustrophobic. It does have an escape hatch should you roll it over and not be able to get the door open through the top. This thing starts, runs, moves. It's got a creeping problem, so no big deal for if you're plowing snow. The problem is each time you want to get out of it, you really do have to shut it down, because if you put the blade down, it'll still creep. It'll dig whatever you put the blade into, or push over, or damage whatever you put the blade up against. It creeps, and it's strong enough to do that. So it does run, does start and move and all that other stuff. The problem is you got to keep shutting it off, so it's really not practical to do a lot with. If you're looking at the bucket up and saying, you know, that's kind of dangerous, it does have these wings that come out to keep it from coming down and doing any real damage. You really can't work on it at all unless the bucket's up. So to maintain access to the motor, I put the bucket up so I can dig in there should I have to hook up with the battery or anything else. You're kind of in trouble, by the way, if the starter dies. As long as the starter's functioning, you could use that to run the hydraulics up if you have to with a good battery. But if the starter dies and the thing is down, good luck. I guess you have to disconnect the hoses and, you know, slurp air into the system and push fluid out the other side and get the blade lifted that way. Anyway, this was the most expensive deal for 2022. In the land of free, gotta love the free stuff, I picked up this YTS 300 tractor, and then I found a $40 engine to smash into it. And I've actually used this to cut grass. It does a pretty good job. So always love the free stuff. I'm going to finish up by talking about the 3 Lanai machines that came home. This is a Lanai 300 4x4. We did manage to get it running. Unfortunately, the transmission is locked. You can't shift it into forward or reverse or anything. It's just stuck in neutral. This is the second Lanai. It came from the Hudson auction. I paid, it's another Lanai 300 4x4. I believe they call them the Talon. Anyway, somebody pulled the engine out of it. The engine, I did get it running. I did bench test it. But considering all the cutting and hacking he did, it'd be really tough to get back in there. He said he pulled the engine for an electrical problem and that he was going to put something else in there. The transmission seems to be okay on this one. So my thoughts would be I'd love to put a 200S motor on this thing. The 200S gets me a pull start. The transmission in there gets me high, low, and reverse. Plus I have the 5-speed. I think it'd just be a thrill to run around. So this was 270, and the one over there was 300. I rode out to Pine Plains to get that one. The last Lanai and the last bike I bought this year, kind of the biggest turd, is this guy. This is a Lanai Bighorn 400 UTV or UTV 28. So I paid $400 for this thing, and I have started and ridden it. It's got a problem that we're still working on, so I think you're gonna see it again shortly in a video. I think I got it figured out. It's just a matter of doing the final touches and putting together a video on it. To be honest, I'm not sure on this thing. It is the biggest UTV in my hoard. Barely fit in the back of the truck. I paid $400 for it. The transmission seems to work. The engine seems to work intermittently. It does run and drive. The high-low reverse transmission works. The four-wheel drive works. Even some of the electronics work. The story still needs to be written on this guy to what's going to become of it. Whether it too gets an engine swap out, perhaps a 200M. That way I have electric start as well as the pull start. The forward, reverse, high, low will come out of the onboard transmission, which will be chain driven by the 200M motor, the electric start inherent on the 200M. That would make it cool. That would get rid of the water cooling and all the other stuff. But against that, I have balanced keeping the OEM motor in here. So I'm not quite sure what's going to become of it. Expect to see a video. I got to make a decision soon because I got to do something with it. It can't live here. When it snows, it's going to become a major problem with this size turd in the middle of the driveway. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the best of 2022. 2023 will be better yet for all of us, I hope. I need you all to keep your feet down, your heads up, and I need you all to have a really great 2023. My best wishes to everyone out there, for themselves, their families, everyone they care about. And go a hoard. Everybody needs a bunch of stuff. Take care now, folks. Bye.